Adventuring? Sebastian looked baffled. Since I don't have anything to do, for the time being, I might as well keep myself busy. What better way than to kill monsters? Arnold grabbed a plate without acknowledging Judith's presence. Naturally, this caused her face to turn red in anger. She glared at him who was casually picking food. For how long will you be gone this time? I can understand why you were late yesterday, however, you tend to be gone for long periods in the first place. Madam will be worried over you as well if you don't return. Victoria will also scold you for being irresponsible. Ha! Arnold leaned back in his chair and picked his tooth with a toothpick. What is there to be concerned about? I'll just cut through any danger that may come my way. Sebastian looked like he was about to sigh but held it back. It was awfully rude to show such an attitude in a formal setting. During their training, Arnold would be the one beneath him, who was the teacher, but other times, he is still the son of his master. On Arnold's face was the usual arrogant smirk he always wore. Where is that woman? I thought I told her to begin Luke's training today. Huh? Mine? Luke tilted his head after hearing his name being mentioned. Oh, right. I forgot to tell you. Flora will be your sword instructor. I feel that she is more capable than any sword instructor my father hired. I feel that it is too dangerous and foolhardy to leave training to a slave you bought from an auction. Sebastian stepped in. I can vouch for her skills. The two of you can administer Luke's physical and sword training. I already spoke with my mother and she agreed to my request of enlisting Flora as one of our family's knights. Such a thing is still. Sebastian didn't back down. He was about to say, utterly foolish. No one knew Flora's background, so it wasn't wise to leave the swordsmanship training of the heir of a great noble's household to a slave. One could tell that he was serious about finding a good teacher for Luke. As a warrior, when they find a greenhorn who has the potential to grow, their spirit to nurture that person increases. Of course, they would do their utmost to make sure that the person in question is not led in a wrongful manner. Then why don't you observe her while she trains Luke? The slave mark is still on her body, so there's no way she can harm others without suffering in return. I will tell you the command to make her obey you. That should be enough, right? While that is reassuring, I feel that the person might intentionally mislead the young master. Ha! Arnold sighed loudly as if he were bored. This was one of those rare few times that Sebastian was passionate about something. Growing up and often on a battlefield, he had always valued a warrior's skills above everything else. That was what determined one's life or death, after all. Indeed, there were many times that he had faced danger, so he did not want the same to happen to Luke. His journey as a 7-star warrior was not easy, however, it was worth it. He could confidently say that he knew best of what is essential for a warrior's growth. Then what of Arnold's opinion? He had grown up in a well-off family and was born with talent. His life was never harsh if one excluded his assassination attempts. That didn't mean that he knew everything there was to know about the warrior's code. The power had gone to his head, Sebas thought. Very well. Sebas bowed. I shall observe her closely. And make sure she doesn't mislead Master Luke. Ahem. That clearing of the throat came from the one who had been left out of the conversation for a while now. Judith. Judith had not found an interval to interrupt, so she could only wait for them to finish speaking. Lest she made a fool of herself. Arnold's eyes widened as if he had just noticed her. Good morning, Miss Judith. Her face almost twisted horribly at being addressed by him. Sebastian held back yet another sigh. He didn't know what it was, but it was so easy for Arnold to upset the woman. He barely had to say anything and she'd be fuming in his presence. It was almost as if she hated him. Shouldn't you be focusing on the household matters while my husband is gone? It is important that each of us put in enough effort to keep this city running in the Lord's absence. Judith explained calmly. She brought the teacup to her red luscious lips and took a sip of the delicious liquid inside. Us? Does that include you, Miss Judith? One could see Judith's molars clench, however, she didn't lash out at Arnold. Her brows only furrowed for a brief moment. Yes. I must do inspection of the various businesses and organizations in our city. As Adriana is too busy with her husband's affairs, I must see to it that everything is going smoothly. HM. I see. Arnold said as if he lost interest. Now tell me, why are you not contributing to the household as well? Judith rested her chin on one of her hands as she gazed at Arnold. Now that Arnold had lost the title of heir, he was basically just someone who lived off his family. By age 13, a man must already begin working for his family. This was the norm for this world. I am also interested in what he plans to do. Although he will become the lord of another city, that didn't mean he couldn't contribute to the household. For example, he could trade with the duchy once his city becomes stable enough to share resources. Knowing his lord, Marcus might help Arnold in secret. Away from the eyes of other nobles. What does it matter what I do? Unless father says otherwise, I will do what I want when I become a city lord. I feel like that is very irresponsible as a member of this family. Idiotic even. Well, when have you ever been responsible, anyway? It's nothing new. Just more burdens for my dear husband. Judith shrugged her shoulders and began eating her food which had already arrived. The servants could feel the tension in the air. It was like it could be cut through with a knife. You party until late at night, destroy the property of establishments and ruin the lives of innocent people as well. I can't remember how many times we had to apologize on behalf of your actions. Judith said while chewing on a piece of fruit. So? Arnold asked as if he had no clue where she was going with her words. He had only come to eat here, yet he had to listen to her words. This was how it was every time the two of them interacted. A constant back and forth of words meant to mock the other. It was childish from another's perspective, so no one in the family had paid it any mind. It is a kind of bonding. Was that what you said, master? Thought Sebastian. Sebastian disagrees with Marcus' words. What was now a cute quarrel could turn into something dangerous. When Arnold was about to reply, Luke stepped between the two of them. He hit the table with his hand. Everyone's eyes turned towards him. Please don't fight with each other. This is what we have to bear with every single time they interact, young Master Luke, thought Sebastian. Although he could not actually say that. Aren't we all family? Is it really necessary to argue like this? Luke looked at both of them. There was an unwavering passion in his eyes that made both Judith and Arnold, who both had strong personalities, stop speaking. Humph. Judith harumphed and she looked away. Arnold also shut his mouth and silently finished the meal on his plate. Thank you. Luke sighed in relief. Sebastian smiled secretly. What a noble character. I dare say his heart is much purer than anyone I have ever interacted with. Well, I apologize for my words. Arnold coughed to clear his throat. Although his words weren't exactly rude, the tone in which he said them was. It was a tone you shouldn't use to those older than yourself. Good. Judith's ego and pride didn't allow her to lower her head to a child. Sebastian resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Luke seemed satisfied regardless. Their breakfast continued in silence after that. ***. Although you said that you are going adventuring, you did not specify where. Sebastian approached Arnold when the latter was in the armory collecting a weapon for his travels. It's a secret. Is that so? Then do tell me, why are you taking a weapon from the armory when you already have an aura ring to store your sacred aura sword? Well, it has something to do with what I'm going to do. Arnold answered with feigned calmness. You even went into the treasury to select magic items which alter a person's appearance. Then there's the weapon you are choosing. I have a thought as to why you are doing these things, however, I am not sure. Sebastian smiled meaningfully. Arnold's face looked like someone who had been found out. This old man. TCH. You sharp old man. I'm doing this to conceal my identity. It's nothing too serious. It's just that my face is hated pretty much everywhere. I see. Then I understand. Arnold finally found a sword he liked amongst the junk that lay within the armory. Although the weapons here were the kind that many of the castle knights used, Arnold found many of them distasteful. He much rather preferred a thin blade that could cut through things and only needs minimum maintenance than an ordinary double-edged sword that chipped after several uses. Plus, the size of the blade was essential when picking a weapon. By focusing his grip onto a smaller sword, the power output would increase as well. Plus, his journey wasn't just to observe the adventurers during their fight with the dragon. He wanted to see how powerful he really was without his aura. A good sword was necessary. Looking at Flora, who was a pure swordsman, he wanted to test his own might. How powerful was the villain Arnold with pure swordsmanship alone? That was what he wanted to experiment. Could he grow stronger without having to rely on his aura? In Star Fantasy, Arnold wasn't seen fighting much during his time as an endgame boss. He had gathered subordinates sometime during his isolation from the rest of his family. He would use those subordinates to fight for him whenever a troublesome person invaded his domain. Although when the hero arrived, Arnold himself would clash with the hero. The two had fought on many occasions. One could even say that they were rivals. Sometimes it was Arnold's victory while it was Luke's victory other times. The two were like peas of a pod. If one vanished, then the other couldn't grow stronger. If you were to ask any player who had played the game if Arnold played a significant role in shaping Luke's character, then they'd say, yes, without hesitation. If Luke saw Arnold's growth, then it would motivate him to grow as well. Aren't you just running away so you cannot meet with Her Highness? Sebastian asked as Arnold was putting on his gear. Perhaps. What difference does me being here bring if she and Luke were to have their first meeting? It would be pointless for me to be here when that time comes. Arnold finished his preparations and sheathed the sword by his waist. Maybe she will be willing to see you. I doubt it, Sebastian. Olivia has showed me the signs all these years that she doesn't want to be with me. Isn't it strange? That day she cancelled on me, I had to meet the bastard who would replace me and become her new husband. It's like some god had planned everything perfectly to screw with me. In a way, he was referring to him being reborn in this world as well. That was three things. Why did he get reborn on the day of Luke and Arnold's first contact? Liam couldn't help but think there was something much bigger at play here. However, since he had nothing to go on, he decided to store those thoughts for later. Sebastian seemed to sympathize with Arnold's words. He patted Arnold's shoulder and spoke. I am certain that the two will not fall in love. They could get married, but she can still have your child. However, there is something important you must do if you want such a thing. Sebastian paused before continuing. You must make her fall for you. Arnold laughed at his words. It wasn't that any of them had made a joke. But he just found those words utter foolish. Sebastian also smiled as if he were thinking the same thing. As if. Arnold walked past Sebastian and headed for the door. He spoke as he continued walking. There's no moving the heart of one they call the icy princess. Then he left. As Arnold walked through the gates of the castle, he thought to himself. The second princess Olivia, an unparalleled genius in strategic warfare and mind games. A frightening woman. Not only beautiful and smart but powerful as well. The face of that woman appeared in his mind. She had long silver hair, narrowed amethyst eyes and a beautiful face that seemed to never carry any emotion. It earned her the nickname, Icy Princess. Yeah, there's no way she could fall for this bastard.